Hi, Word Balloon listeners. I'm Margaret Larkin, who John has interviewed for this podcast. I lived in Japan and I love Japanese language, and I want to share a tip for learning it. The language in manga and anime, especially stories that take place in schools, is usually very casual, but Japan has a polite culture, so memorize polite phrases when you go to Japan. For instance, use desu ka when asking directions, such as eki wa doko desu ka, or use arimasu ka when asking biru wa arimasu ka, and don't say anata when you're talking to someone. You can find me on YouTube at Margaret Larkin. That's Margaret Larkin on YouTube.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntra's here. You know, we're in the midst of two big events happening in the summer for DC and Marvel. And I wanted to go back to a conversation that I did with MattFraction back in 2011 about an event he wrote called Fear Itself. We talk a lot about the series, the different tie-ins in the books. He killed off Thor in the event, and Thor had just been resurrected by J. Michael Straczynski. And I said, isn't it likely that Thor would be back in time for next summer's Avengers film? We also preview the run that Matt and Terry Dotson did of the Defenders. We talk about that, and various different things about the nature of comic book writing. At the time, Marvel had just gone down to 20 pages per story versus 22 pages, and literally the difference in losing 2 pages of story, how that would impact a book. Interesting stuff with MattFraction from 2011 on today's Word Balloon. It's been called one of the top 3 real Comic-Cons in the USA. August 16th through the 18th. Discover Terrificon as it returns to the Mohegan Sun Expo Center in Uncasville, Connecticut. Terrificon showrunner Mitch Halleck has assembled his biggest and best comic creator guest list to date. Jim Lee, Scotty Young, Mark Waid, Adam Hughes, Jason Aaron, Charles Soule, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Brian Azzarello, alongside legends like Chris Claremont, Jerry Ordway, Howard Chaykin, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Louise and Walter Simonson, Klaus Janson, Lee Weeks, and dozens more. Terrificon also brings you the actors who have brought your favorite superheroes to life on the big and small screens. Michael Rooker, Charlie Cox, Star Trek actors Walter Koenig, Nana Visitor, Armin Shimmerman, Ethan Peck, Celia Rose Gooding, and many more. That's Terrificon, August 16th through the 18th. For information on tickets and guests, visit Terrificon.com. Word Balloon is brought to you by AlexRossArt.com. Alex is a good friend of the show, and I am honored that he aligns himself with Word Balloon, and good Lord, we all love his iconic art, whether it's for DC, Marvel, things like Monty Python, the Monkees, David Bowie, so many other great licensed things, the Beatles. If you go to AlexRossArt.com, you will find great value for your dollar, whether you can spring for something like original cover art or pages to lithos and posters, every price point you can imagine, you will find something and a beautiful image from AlexRossArt.com. Word Balloon is also presented by my listeners, the League of Word Balloon listeners. The help that I get via contributions from Patreon, patreon.com/wordballoon. You hear the entertainment that I provide from Word Balloon every day, that I do a new episode. I am very fortunate to have the great creators of comics and pop culture willing to come on and give you great entertainment. I hope you will consider making an actual cash contribution via Patreon, even $1 a month. But really, if Word Balloon is worth the price of a comic book a month to you, it would be greatly appreciated if you slide that extra money you would put on an issue of a comic book to Word Balloon via Patreon. Patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you, League of Word Balloon listeners. It's been far too long. I'm glad you're back, my man.
It is a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Well, you're a good guy. When we talk about Thor, I'd like to talk in my James Mason voice.
Wow.
Because I feel that Norse mythology deserves that kind of regal treatment. Tell us of Tyrannus, new god of thunder. Soon to debut in the pages of Marvel, in a book ironically called Thor, or will it be called Tyrannus? Tanaris.
We know of a logo. Yeah, no, we actually got the logo treatment redone, so...
I don't know if they're going to run it, if it's just for the ads, or if they're actually going to put it on the cover or not. We'll see.
All right. Because, all right, the Mighty Tenars.
Yeah, Tenars. Yeah, Tenars.
I'm going to keep this open so that I have Thor 7 in front of me now.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about Fear itself.
Okay.
And so this was like the first big event that you've kind of. I mean, I know you did the Dark Avengers and X-Men.
Yeah, but it was nothing like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me now that we're at issue 7. I mean, is this way in the rearview mirror, or
Oh yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, yes and no. I wrote it forever. I mean, I was like it was like 17 months of work.
Okay.
All in, it was like 17 months. So I'm still writing it in some ways. It's not going to really feel done, I don't think, until the point 1, point 2, and point 3 mess is over.
Okay.
Just because that's sort of the end of the Cap stuff, the end of the Thor stuff, and the end of the Iron Man stuff. Like, that's when it will feel done to me. But
sure.
But at this point, no. At this point, we're just kind of coast. Now it's they're all done, they're all lettered, they're all in, they're all to printer. And it's Cap is out next week, and then I think Thor is out the week after that, and then Iron Man is out the week after that. So it's like it's all done, but the shouting basically as the.
I liked your analogy. I read your Newsarama recap with Tom. And I really like the analogy that you made, because I have to be honest, that is how I felt that way at the end of Fear Itself 7, that the story isn't over yet. Yeah. And this isn't the first event. This isn't one sec. This isn't the first event where this has happened, because it was kind of like that in Civil War as well, where you really needed that conversation between Cap and Iron Man after Cap was arrested and stuff. But yeah, tell me about these point 1, point 2, and point 3s.
Well, I think that the story of Fear itself is done, but I don't think we haven't had Cap and Thor and Iron Man have that moment to realize that for themselves, and that's what these stories are.
Okay.
It wasn't conceived in the going to be numbered like this, and I'm not crazy about the numbering simply because I think I went up and down saying you only have to read the book, you only have to read the book, you only have to read the book, and now it seems like except for these 3 issues, and I think had it been titled at one point it was just they were just it was the conversation that you just brought up was very much what we had in mind, like that was but it was a chance to do it for each of these guys, and rather than cram Bucky's funeral into a page of Fear itself, rather than cram Thor's funeral into a page, rather than have Odin and Tony face each other one last time and resolve everything with Paris in a page or two of an already jam-packed issue, like why not let those things breathe? It's also not right for me to write Bucky's funeral. I'm sorry, it's not. Like it was great that Ed let me write his death. I ain't the one to give the eulogy. But that's Ed's job, So, these would have been, maybe a one-shot. Maybe they would have been the first issues out of Fear itself in each of the titles, whatever. I know that they named it what they named it because they felt the stories we were doing in them was so important they didn't want retailers to miss it. Because they are big stories, they are important stories to the characters, not to the story of Fear itself. The story of Fear itself is done, but there's such big Cap, Thor, and Iron Man stories, they didn't want people to not recognize their importance, to think, this is just like a postscript issue. People didn't think Book of the Skull was terribly important,
Uh-huh.
So it's that kind of thing. I'm just trying to communicate the importance rather than, so I'm sorry if you feel ripped off or whatever. And I suppose I get it, but I would respectfully disagree just in terms of, like at the end of Raiders, I don't need to see the next morning where Indy and Marion wake up in bed together like, Jesus, I was fucked up when that guy's face got melted off. Like, what was that? Like it's okay.
I understand.
But that's what these issues are. Like, this is the morning after for our 3 leads. Functionally, in that 2 of them are dead. So this is the morning after that stuff, and this is the first step out of it, and sets the books up for where they're going in the next, 6 months, a year, whatever.
Sets up Iron Man, Thor, and Cap.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Now, and Matt, I had the same conversation with Brian at the end of Secret Invasion. I accept that explanation. I, as a reader, feel that kind of epilogue, you didn't have Marion and Indy waking up the day afterwards. You did have them, though, in the warehouse.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all you need.
And the other thing, too, is, and again, this is, we got that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me finish my thought, because honestly, I even said...
Finish.
No, but, as opposed to the prequels and what we're going to see in all the other books, wouldn't that have been enough room for all of those things? Because I felt the same way about Secret Invasion. Brian's explanation was kind of similar, that the epilogue needed to happen in the Avenger books because they were about the Avengers. And again,
how would you have felt? How would you have felt if it was 10 issues and really the last 3 issues were 3 characters saying, "Oh shit, what the fuck happened?"
What we got at the end of Fear Itself 7 was an introduction, and this is the function of events, and I get that, of setting up what the new status quo is and how it impacts other books. Mm-hmm. And that's been going on for decades, and I welcome that. And I'm really intrigued in some of these directions that a lot of these other books are going into. But I also think that it's kind of something that's been done. That's where the extra issue that is separate from the event kind of comes out, and here's the aftermath.
Well, yeah. I don't. Like I said, it was supposed to be that, and then they changed it because they were worried people are going to order this like an epilogue issue and not like the limited. So I didn't have anything to do with that part.
No, I understand. I guess that's.
I can only speak to like the structural decisions, and that to me, I would, even then, I still needed 10 more pages.
I do understand.
But it just even then, it was 38 pages, not even counting the epilogue stuff.
Absolutely.
Lots of stories. Stewart's hand fucking fell off at the end, and
he gave up good blood because it was.
No, and I get it, but
it's big moments were big moments. They really were.
Well, good. Thanks.
True.
But I certainly get. Here's the thing: if you imagine it as a collection, hopefully you'll have questions and you want to keep reading. I mean, that's the thing. These things never end. These comics never end. We
get that. We understand all that. And again, I'll point to the more recent example of Secret Invasion, where I think those 2 issues of Mighty Avengers and New Avengers belonged in as part of the Secret Invasion story, because it was that emotional,
Sure, okay.
That's where I see it as a reader. Again, you didn't shoot my dog.
No.
There's no boycott. There's no protest. It's just, honestly, I appreciate the conversation of saying.
No, I think John, what you're hearing is I'm confused. So you're saying, should these have been numbered 8, 9, and 10, or is it the numbering? Where are we? Where is the?
Maybe there should have been a decision where, hey, and again, this is just my stupid opinion of, something that's bigger. The story's bigger than we thought it was.
Yeah.
And again, this is something, before we started recording, I'm even like, maybe this is something for Brevoort. But I'm just kind of throwing it out there that.
Yeah, well, maybe ultimately, like I said, when it, I still call it Shattered Heroes because they were going to be 3 one-shots that dealt with the aftermath. It was going to be called, for a while I was calling it Aftermath. And it was just going to be, for a while it was called Fallen Soldiers. And it was about the 3 of them. It was meant to be refocusing on the kind of the big 3 afterwards and how they go forward after all this when it's not even possible for some of them,
Sure.
Again, it's meant to be after the kind of strum and drang of big blockbuster territory. It's 3 character pieces. It's
heroes.
It's 3 funerals. It's sort of like,
True.
Jesus Christ. It's heavy, and it's sort of, you talk about like that thing, what was the elf movie, the Hobbit movie?
Lord of the Rings, absolutely.
Had like 9 endings.
Yeah. I understand.
So, I don't know that there's a right answer, and I don't know that if we had done things differently, we wouldn't have been having this in another conversation. You'll see when the issues come out that tonally is so different than everything in Fear itself. Like, it needs to stand alone. And for whatever reason, I think because they didn't want retailers to miss this, they chose to continue and extend the Fear itself name, but I guess like the collection's been solicited and they're not a part of the collection, so the fuck do I know about anything,
Well, that's honestly, I find that disappointing. And again, that's an editorial decision. But it's this, and it's a new phenomenon, Matt, and I do appreciate us talking about it, where you got the event, and then you've got the epilogue event. And it's not unique to Marvel. DC did it too. They did it with Superman story. You've got World of New Krypton.
They did it for a fucking year with Brightest Day.
There you go. Yeah.
Bi-weekly, for God's sake. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I'll even say that
we're doing it too now with well, it's not really the same as that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. You've got Fearless. I mean, that's it. Hey, man, I saw Cullen, and I'm like, okay, it's, Cullen took the writing assignment and more power to him, and I understand that, and I'm thrilled with some of the opportunities he's getting at Marvel. I thought the Fear was fantastic in his tie-in to Fear itself, or the Deep, rather.
The Deep, yeah.
Thank you, the Deep. But yeah, it's this never-ending specific, event that both publishers, it's like, hey man, we had our pizza, thanks. Would you like more pizza?
But you know what the problem is? You know the thing that the problem is that the pizza keeps selling.
I understand that too. I know that's why
we'll say it again and again and again and again and again until we're blue in the face up there, and they keep saying, and yet the numbers prove you wrong. And that's it. And that's what it comes down to. It's like the minute it stops selling, I guarantee you they'll stop making them.
We are always one event away from Atlantis attacks.
Yeah, I also think we're always one event away from Civil War too.
Fair enough. Totally fair enough.
My problem was I couldn't keep fucking straight what was what. I still think they're publishing them in the wrong order, but it ain't my day to run the company. You know what I mean? So like,
sure.
I think the Cap issue should be last because it started with a Cap story. It should end. You just beat this to the writer and me likes the symmetry. Ed should close it. So as far as I'm concerned, you should read it 3, 2, 1.
No, I understand that, and honestly, I'm glad you said it too. That I really wish those 3 issues would be part of the collection because
I'm sure like one day they'll
guess
put out like an oversized. But at that point, but look, you're already talking about Fear itself is already 9 issues worth of content.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And really, if you, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, it's 10, 48. It's actually a little bit more than that. So it's already an expensive book just because it was 7 issues long, but 9 issues worth of guts,
I understand that too.
Then you're talking about adding another 4 issues to that.
But if
that bumps it up into an entire new price bracket,
Yeah, but if there used to be 12-issue maxi series, and they used to be worthwhile events, and I guess
other than Watchmen, name one.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay.
Tons of them.
Matt. Yes.
Yeah, tons of them actually.
Okay.
And honestly, obviously Watchmen wasn't meant to be anything.
Yeah, Well, I think Watchmen and Crisis, but like Camelot 3000 maybe was 12 issues. But,
sure it was.
But economically.
I guess
the book people don't buy the books as much because they're more expensive.
Then maybe again, and this is more for editorial, maybe these stories are too ambitious if they can't be contained in a 6 or 7 issue story.
Well, ours is 7 issues, and we sold it in a 7-issue story, and we ate the loss. Look, I promise you, it would have sold better if it was 9 issues long.
I wish it was 9 issues long. Like I said, they include these other chapters and stuff.
Instead of making the bigger size number 1 and the bigger size number 7, if it had been 9 issues, it would have sold better, and we would have made more money.
But of course, I was doing the math to include the .1s, and I guess it would have been 10.
Yeah.
But no, man. Seriously, we'll agree to disagree.
But the good news is the good news. No, I don't. I think we're agreeing. It's just I'm saying yeah, but I don't. But it is. These are.
It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is.
I understand, and
I certainly see it. And like I said, I ideally there would be a book. There one day I'm sure there will be a. This is the way. Look, it's 7 issues long. Someone who can afford a 7-issue collection can buy the 7-issue collection. And it grows the story, but again, it doesn't. You're missing texture. You're not missing content. You know what I mean? The Book of the Skull and the epilogues, they really are prologues and epilogues. They set the stage and deal with what happens afterwards, but it's not, you're getting the full story.
But texture elevates it to something special. I mean, it's that feeling that we've seen superheroes and villains fight a million times. It's the conversations and it's the characterization, I think, that truly does make them different. And I think when you leave out that kind of emotional beat, it's shortening the story. I mean,
how would you have felt if Fear itself 8, 9, and 10 were released on the same day? Or if they were released number 7 comes out and then 8, 9, and 10 come out week.
Why would they
said, why are you turning this into a weekly series? You're killing us. We can't afford it.
Well, they could have been monthlies or whatever, and weekly books are nothing new. I don't know, man. Like I said,
I'm just saying, like I'm having the arguments in my head, and I'm hearing the other sides. Like
sure.
I don't know what the answer is, and I think that it wasn't like we set out. I didn't set out to. But I'm gonna leave 3 issues of stuff out.
Of course not. Well, honestly, Matt, that's a question too. When did it become necessary that, hey, you know something, we really need these extra?
No, we never did. No, this is, like I said, it was the first. This would have been the first issue of Cap out of the crossover. This would have been the first issue of Iron Man out of the crossover. This would have been the first issue of Thor out of the crossover.
So what? What was the branding change?
And said, "Oh, look, we can call these RIP. We can call these Aftermath. We can call these Fall." And we're like, "Oh, sure, there's a thematic thing. Why don't we make them specials and standalones?" It's just another way to like double ship the title that month. You know, you're getting 2 Iron Man issues this month. You're getting 2 Thor issues this month. One is called Fear Itself 7.2, and one is called Mighty Tenaris number 8 or whatever. Right?
Understood.
So it's like that kind of thing. So it's like, oh, okay, all right, so we'll do that there, and look, we have to put this here, so this happens there, and there's other moving pieces you have to care about and, keep your eye on and all that kind of stuff. So part of it was just needing to get it done. We couldn't have stretched it out another 3 months just because pieces need to be on the board. And if you've not read, I can only vamp for so long in Iron Man, And the story starts off ahead and then it gets behind again because Fear itself kind of outpaces it, and you can't have. Iron Man ships before Fear itself. I couldn't have Iron Man 509 revealing things from Fear itself 7.
Right.
Even though it came out before. So it was a whole, you know what I mean? Like there's this kind of algebra involved where it gets, where it's like, well, Tony decides to get a sandwich before I don't know.
So 510, is that a different story, or is there an epilogue to Fear itself in 510?
No, I mean, it's congruent. It all fits together.
Sure.
But no, 510 starts our new storyline, but deals with the reality of the world, on the other side of Fear itself.
So then the collection of Iron Man Fear itself's issues ends with. I
suspect it'll end with that Fear itself 7.3, but I'm not in collection, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. And that would make sense.
And I believe the Cap issues. I think the Cap stuff will end with the Cap stuff, and I think probably I don't know if the Tenaris collection would begin or if Galactus Seed would end. I suspect the Tenaris collection will begin with Fear itself 7.2. Just because Galactus Seed takes place so far before Fear itself, that to read 6 issues of Thor and Galactus and Silver Surfer and Odin fighting, and then to have a funeral for Thor,
sure,
would be kind of weird. So again, though, I don't know, man. It's not my department, and sometimes people ask me, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes my opinion is listened to, and other times it's not.
No, I'm hip, man. And like I said, I know a lot of these are editorial questions, so I do appreciate you sculling through them with me because, I just, it's like I said, I try to understand the decisions and. Yeah.
Ultimately, the way it was expressed to me, why it wasn't, just called Aftermath, whatever, I originally, I think it was like, we were calling it RIP or Aftermath, whatever it was. It was going to be Cap RIP, Thor RIP, Iron Man RIP, whatever it was. Aftermath. And just like 3 one-shots, okay, fine. But they were worried that people were going to ignore it. And when it really kind of speaks to the greater story. So, if anything, it was a vote of confidence in the quality of the issues. Which was always kind of nice. But now apparently it's a poison pill that I'm forcing you to eat, and I feel really bad.
No, not at all. And like I said, it is being called Fear itself. It is part of the story. So unlike Secret Invasion, it is still under that Fear itself banner. Yeah. Like I said, my difference is that I still think it's part of the actual event.
Sure. And that's, I think that's why they're numbering it what they're numbering it, I guess.
I hear you. And honestly, if anything, it's the 0.1 issues, based on their own individual efforts. I don't know. I sense rumblings amongst the minions.
No, look,
in terms of, another 0.1. And it's so funny.
But they sold like crazy and people loved them.
Did they love them?
Yeah.
Or did they buy them with the intent of
retailers love them and they were so successful they're doing them again. Like be more. And they're standalone issues. I don't understand if Iron Man 510 and Iron Man 511 were coming out and Iron Man 511 was a standalone issue, you wouldn't hear a word about it. Right?
But as you say, when you double ship, and I guess some people
you wouldn't hear a word fucking about it, man. Look at how many issues for, I mean, assuming the quality, but like it's a thing where like no one ever complained that Ultimate Spider-Man came out too much, right?
I guess
we shipped 14 Iron Man last year. Nobody, it's a thing. So the double shipping is a thing but yeah, that's all it is. It's just another Iron Man issue. Even if it doesn't double ship, even if it stands alone in its own month, it's just a standalone issue.
All I can offer, and I'm the first one to admit that it's anecdotal. I can also hear people saying, "Hey, you know something? I bought it, and because I bought it doesn't mean I necessarily liked it." And double shipping sometimes does mess with your book budget when each book is $4 and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I get it. Believe me, that absolutely fucking get
it. So there you go. I mean, it isn't again, retailers might like it. I don't know how every consumer feels. And again, all I can offer
if they sat on, and if they sat on retailers' shelves, we'd have heard, and they wouldn't do it again.
Fair enough.
And I guess that people, and also now having lived through a summer of doing the Marvel event, people are going to fucking hate your guts no matter what you do. You don't know what did I learn from doing my first big Marvel event? People are going to fucking hate your guts.
Yeah, no.
You could,
yeah, stop it.
It's true. Do I lie?
I don't know. It sounded like you got a good reception in New York.
Sure. Because New York is New York, and people are face to face. It's funny. I actually was convinced I was going to get it in New York. The 2 years back at the New York show, we did a panel. It was an X-Men panel. A guy goes, no offense, but you suck. And Chris Claremont should be writing every X-Men book there.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And Axel just turns to me and goes, no offense. As I was convinced, we're going to get it in New York. But no, it was incredibly well received. People did great. And look, the numbers were awesome. Every issue sold better than the issue before.
But Matt, it's the Boxer thing where that's walking in the door. That's not leaving.
That's not true, John. If number 4 was ordered better than number 3, and number 3 was ordered better than number 2, 1 month, I'll get you. Sure, 3, I get you. But 4 and 5 and 6, it kept moving. The numbers kept moving. The reorder numbers were coming in. Those are going out the door numbers.
Yeah,
I'm not talking initials. I'm talking reorders.
All right.
And the initials too. I mean, listen. Look, nobody fucking hates me more than I hate me. You're not going to get me on this.
My man.
This is like that fucking episode of The Prisoner where they send the duplicate after him. Like, you're not going to fucking shake me on this shit, man. I trust you. Believe me. The number 1 fuck me fan club is me. All right. I got the index. I got the fucking membership card and everything. But I'm saying I just know the book did well. The book did well. The book was moving. People were happy with it.
Matty, there's no hate here.
No, of course not. But you know what I'm saying. Like I get it. I know what you're saying. And yet, people will fucking hate your guts no matter what you do.
No, I do understand that as well. No one's going to bat 1,000.
Go around. Look, how many people. Whatever, man. It is what it is.
No, absolutely. Hey, like I said, I
know that Marvel listens to their retail partners very carefully, especially in a fucking recession. And if the retailers are saying, hey, the Point One books did good for us, the Point One books helped me keep my lights on, we're going to do it again.
All right.
And I get, if people are pissed off, then don't buy it. Vote with your wallets, and I promise it'll never happen again.
No, I hear you. That's cool. That's cool.
But, a chance to do accessible, single, standalone issues, success or fail, it was a thing that gave retail, not for anything, but DC just gave you 52.1 issues.
That's not true, but all right.
Oh, isn't it now?
Sounds funny. They're all new number 1s.
Yeah, and now
Yep. And nobody held a gun to their head, and I don't hear even people saying, okay, I wasn't crazy about it and stuff. It was like, all right, we'll take a chance. Ultimates, the Ultimate line came out, the Tsunami line came out back in the day. There have been big initiatives by both companies, and granted, 52 is pretty goddamn big.
Sure.
Like you say, I guess people will vote with their wallets.
Yeah, but also people are going to just vent. about anything. You're not really bitching about.
Sure, of course.
People aren't really bitching about. They're bitching about like their fucking budget. They're bitching about the economy. They're bitching about whatever. They're just gonna bitch to bitch. People bitch. Well, bitch. It is what it is.
And honestly,
and look,
Matt, I've heard positive
things.
Hold on, man. I've heard positive things on Fear Itself. I mean,
so have I. Yeah, I don't mean to make it sound like that. Not oh, poor me or anything like that. But I'm.
No.
Well, look, take X-Men for example, right?
Yes.
Where X-Men fans really have no problem letting you know how they feel.
Indeed.
If you read some corners of the internet, I'm the worst thing to happen to the X-Men since, fucking Magneto. And yet, in others, it's completely the opposite. And then if you look at the numbers, we made it a top 10 book again. With no sales support, with like Greg Land and Terry Dodson. And just cranking. And it turned it into a top 10 book again. I'm like, all right, that's ultimately the sign you need, that retailers are believing in it, and readers are too, because the numbers hold. So while there was market attrition on all sides, the X-Men piece of the pie grew. So it's like, all right, well, I can read a review that makes me want to kill myself, or I can actually look at the numbers that are doing all right and just decide that you can't please everybody. And if you're not upsetting X-Men fans, you're not really doing a good job of writing X-Men. And people are going to complain, and people are going to say that you're the greatest thing in the universe, and people are going to say you're the worst thing in the world. And maybe you don't listen to any of it. You can see those dudes too who like were hated on the internet, and their books didn't move numbers.
Right. Yes. I agree with that.
And it's like,
sure.
Oh, well, there you go. You can get into like the Howard Cosell-ness of someone like Mark Miller, where the only thing people hate more than Mark Miller are when Mark Miller's not around to hate. Like, oh God, I wish there was a new Mark Miller book for us.
I understand.
That's over.
Sure. No, you're 100%. You're right about that. 100% right about that. Let me ask you about Thor and the Serpent.
Sure.
Because I am interested in that, because to me, it sounds like this notion of killing Thor was something that like kind of happened late in the game. Is that?
No. It came before. I mean, it came more than a year ago. It came before the first issue had even been scripted.
Because I'm a Norse mythology fan, and I was saying it's like, all right, Thor's fighting the serpent. I'm like, wait a minute, this is Ragnarok,
right?
I'm like, by another name, but it's still Ragnarok.
And so, kind of like not to put too fine a point on it, but like the idea was like this was where Odin got the ideas for all the other myths that he wrote, like the serpent, and then kind of being the world serpent or whatever, and there's all kinds of little like echoes and shadows of the Norse myth as we know it. But if you go by the understanding that Odin rewrote it all after he killed the serpent, like you know what I mean, you can kind of bend the light in such a way that it. But yeah, totally. That was exactly it. That was like, what if this is? And no disrespect to the Ragnarok stories that have been done before, especially not to the the Walter Simonson Sal Buscema issue or
sure.
that, but like just. Yeah, what if this is it? What if this is the 9 steps, fearless, these things?
Right, and I appreciated the title of issue 7 and everything being Thor's Day. I'm like, yeah, all right, here we go. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, but no, writing's on the wall.
I had been up for a couple of days, and I was getting on an airplane to go and sit in a hospital for a couple of weeks, and I was boarding the plane and like sent an email to Tom, like, listen, I'm super tired, but I felt like the ending was lacking weight. I felt like we killed Bucky in 3, and then it's like, whew, well, that was really close, everybody. It just felt like there was no consequence, there was no stake, and I was looking for weight. How do you find weight in this? And I thought, in my exhausted sort of insomniac state, like, what if we kill Thor? What if that's what this is? What if this is the blah, 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 blah? And in the end, Thor gets it. No one will see it coming, especially because I just got the book, right?
Right, and then
hit send, right? It's like, okay, I get on the airplane, I sleep a couple hours, I wake up and think, holy shit, I'm so desperate. It's like every retreat, every editorial retreat, invariably someone says, let's kill Spider-Man. Someone says, let's kill Wolverine. It's like the kind of the shitty, desperate ideas you throw out to see what the actual ideas are.
Right.
It's just we all,
right.
Maybe, you know what, I'm not even going to blame, I do it every single retreat. Somebody, I throw out stupid ideas to kind of see maybe there's some good ideas here. Maybe this will get me thinking about a good idea. Maybe this will get someone else talking about a good idea. So I wrote Tom this email on the plane that I couldn't send. Like, listen, I'm super tired and blah, blah, blah. Sorry, that was a kind of a desperate idea. And by the time I landed, Tom had responded by just saying, that's interesting. Tell me more. So we got on the phone and talked about it and realized we had our weight, we had our theme, we had our tone. Everything then echoed out of that. Like knowing that this is a prophecy, that this is why, that this thing was at the root of everything. And this was why Odin was behaving this way. And, this is a long time ago, dude. This was a really long time ago. This gave me time to do all kinds of stuff with Odin and plant all kinds of seed,
Right. Okay.
I have known Odin was hiding a prophecy for a long fucking time.
Cool.
So yeah, no, but then there's just, how do we keep it hidden? And it's all kind of there. I think if you go back and see it, like it's all leading up to it. It's all kind of between the lines, I hope. So, in the way that like the Norse cycle is, in the way that Ragnarok is inevitable and
absolutely,
that kind of sad, and I think that's, that's what makes it a tragedy,
Understood. And also, I mean, this is cyclical, and the cynical people will say, oh, Thor's dead again. But then, I mean, this is kind of how mythology works. And in fact, in your book, you've got Loki back.
Yeah.
Fresh from his death in Siege.
Yeah.
So maybe that's obviously an idea of maybe where we'll see Thor's eventual reincarnation. Maybe we won't. It's interesting. And much like Brew had when Cap died, that's only the start of the story.
Right.
What happens afterwards, and that's the challenge, obviously.
First, you're right. And the first thing that anybody learns about the Norse is like they come with their own reboot. There's gonna come a day when all the gods are gonna fight and all the gods are gonna die, except for Balder, who hides in the World Tree and is reborn and restarts the world and restarts the cycle all over again. Right?
Yep.
The Norse myth ends with the Norse myth being reborn.
Yep.
So but the point one issue is super important. The Tanaris stuff, there's a plan. There's a plan here. We are telling stories. We're on to the next one.
I have no doubt, and honestly, I am interested to see what happens next. Was there concern though of, hey man, we just killed Thor. He just came back.
Yeah,
do we really want to kill him again?
Of course. Yeah.
How long was that discussion?
You're going to kill Thor the month that the fucking DVD comes out? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, I mean, dude, that the countdown has begun to the Avengers movie. Uh-huh. So, yeah, I would imagine Thor is going to be back in some I mean, that's the general feeling. Again, the cynics will say that.
This ain't rocket science. Yeah, of course.
So, all that in mind, I appreciate the challenge you have ahead of you because, again, it's...
I had a fun story. I have a fun story to tell, I have a story that I thought, I've never seen this story told before, Of all the Thor stories I have read, this has not been one.
Okay, very good.
And not for anything, but he's been around for for 50 fucking years now in Marvel Comics. In August, it's 50 years. There's a lot of Thor stories. I have not seen this one before.
Cool.
The point which you speaks a lot to it and really kicks it off. And yeah, it's here we go.
Awesome. Hey man, prove them wrong. Good for you, dude. That's all right. Like I said, this is very interesting.
Yeah. And it's also I think the aftermath issues, I think 7.1, 2, and 3 are going to be revelatory for a lot of different reasons. They're important. There's an import. It is more than two people in a room sitting and talking. There are big things underway for any number of reasons, and in all three of them. And if stick with us, and if you enjoyed it, if you trusted us so far, it's like, when people get wrapped up in a story and they get angry at you because they're wrapped up in it. Like, yeah, I know the movie's not over. Like, it'd be like somebody storming out in anger after the one X-Wing dude doesn't blow up the Death Star before Luke. You remember? It was like, oh, they just impacted on the surface. Like that dude, like, oh, well, fuck this movie. I'm done. Like, whoa, wait. We got a whole nother reel yet. Like,
but I understand. But now, Matt, you yourself said Fear Itself is over. And if the credits started rolling at that point, we would all be angry. In a sense, the credits did run. If it's collected in 7 issues,
yes.
Fear Itself ends with that impact and you know.
No, I don't think that's a 1-to-1 example.
Okay.
Thor pays the ultimate price, makes a sacrifice. Mankind joins the Avengers. The serpent is overthrown. Thor sacrifices his life to save man rather than to save the gods, and is given is buried and is satellite. And the world stands up and follows his lesson and stands on its feet and begins to rebuild. That is the end of Fear Itself. Now, if that was the end of the Thor comic ever being published, yeah, sure, okay, that is the end. If you never knew anything else, like, oh well, this is the story of how Thor dies, but not for anything. But it's kind of a pretty popular character. We're not going to stop publishing the book, so
I understand.
So keep reading. To be continued. That is it is an illusion that any of these stories ever end. But Fear Itself is over. This is now the story of what comes next.
I understand.
Beta Ray Bill ain't Thor anymore either. You know what I mean? Like
and that pissed off a few people. How come it's not Beta Ray Bill?
Yeah, Also, yeah, again, this is a comic that actually had Ragnarok in it. Well, wait a minute. These guys all died. Why are they back?
Well, and honestly, I was, and shame on me because readers should read the story and not anticipate an ending. I was expecting some sort of death throes moment of not today.
Right. Well, in the same way that I planted how I could bring Nightcrawler back, the issue after Nightcrawler's funeral. The seed is planted. The seed is there. The story is there, and we'll get there. We'll see it. These guys never die. No one dies. No one ever dies.
And I understand that when the Fantastic Four defeated Galactus the first time, there wasn't there wasn't a seed planted for 50 issues later.
Right.
I guess, and that's fine.
But also, when the Fantastic Four defeated Galactus for the first time, the last half of the issue was Johnny Storm's first day at college meeting
with Wyatt Wingfield. It was, but I have that Treasury edition that collected the Galactus story, and it had an ending to it.
True. And then, but it didn't, because then there were 12 more pages of Johnny Storm at college.
Right, and I suppose that's true when you were buying it in the issue forms. That's very true.
The stuff that it's like people love to bash Claremont for,
the never-ending story.
Being Claremontian in his dialogue. Why does Scott always have to say, but Scott Summers, Cyclops, mutant leader, and, with the power of optical force beams, why does he have to remind everybody of his name and powers? Because these guys didn't know that this shit was ever going to be collected. It was a different thing back then. Geez, Charlie Chaplin, we see you. Do you have to I get it. You're picking a flower. Great. You want to dial it back a little bit?
You're killing me.
No, he gets it. We get it. It's a thing that's always unfair to of all the things to attack, the previous creative generations, that they didn't know the future of the industry is not really a valid one.
I understand that, but it seems like, again, and maybe my memory isn't proper, but it really does seem like events were able to end. And an event was able to end.
John, also, you've not read the point 1, 2, and 3 issues.
I understand, buddy. No, and I get it, honestly.
Brother, I promise you, the story ends. This is the beginning. This is more the beginning rather than the end.
I believe you, man. I do believe you, and and like I said,
but it's like being angry that Captain America continued after Civil War ended.
No, it's not, because again, what I was going to say, and I understand you felt the need to point out the point 1, 2, and 3 is part of the end of the story, but we knew that there were going to be issues after Crisis on Infinite Earths. We knew that there was going to be a story.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but really across the street, Flashpoint ended, And had an end.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was an end. Now, granted, they started up with a whole brand new number ones and stuff. And again, honestly, I want to transition into what's coming in the Defenders, because I am intrigued with the difference between your book and Jason's book, because am I wrong to assume that they're kind of suffering from the same problem, or that the Hulk is suffering from the same problem in both books, and they'll be addressed in different ways? In your book of the Defenders, maybe not?
No.
Because he's coming to Doctor Strange and he needs Strange's help.
Yeah, but it's about recapturing. It's about the Breaker of Worlds. At the end of the Hulk versus the Fear Itself, Hulk and Dracula tie-in thing is to kind of free himself of Null, the worthy that had possessed him.
Right.
He breaks the hammer. And the gag is while it frees the Hulk, it also frees Null. So Null is a sort of free. It's like what the Hulk had a Hulk, and it got loose.
I see.
So now Hulk's Hulk is loose on this rampage, and he goes to Strange for help because Strange, basically the Defenders, are the only people he trusts anymore. He knows Strange feels guilty about Planet Hulk. He knows Namor feels like he owes him for everything, and the Namor, it's like it's Hulk is calling in his personal favors with the people that know him better than anyone else.
Okay, very interesting. See, and I didn't read Hulk versus Dracula because you've only got so many dollars.
Sure, yeah. But that's kind of and it's sort of addressed it's addressed in Defenders, like, which I guess doesn't come out until December, which is sort of a bummer. But yeah, it's sort of it's like, hey, listen, I did this thing and this thing happened and now I need your help.
Cool. And there's Iron
Hulk's only in that first issue. He's there very briefly and gets the fuck off the stage. Specifically because of what Jason has cooking, but yeah, it's just he's the catalyst and then removes himself from the action, specifically so he doesn't get caught red-handed. Like, he needs plausible deniability. He can't be seen near this thing or people will know. He's worried he's going to get shot on a rocket again,
I understand. All right, that's fair. Now then, your new lineup again for the Defenders are, I know Iron Fist is in there, Doctor Strange, go on, who else?
Yeah, Red She-Hulk is covering the Hulk corner of the universe.
Okay.
Silver Surfer, Iron Fist, Doctor Strange, Namor, and then we have revealed Nick Fury, and we have revealed Ant-Man. Or even some more.
You haven't specified which Ant-Man
correct.
It will be.
I am holding that card to my chest, and here's there's a secret member. There's more members, but one of them is revealed in the third issue.
Okay.
And it's before Ant-Man or Fury even show up. You'll learn there's another one before even those dudes show up. So.
Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing you write Nick Fury.
Yeah, so am I. I'm excited.
Excellent. I loved what John did.
Yeah.
John, Hickman's Secret Warriors was.
Yeah, it's true.
Loved it from start to finish. And really enjoyed what you were doing with the Surfer in Thor.
Oh, thanks. He's still kind of he's still sort of there. Like my line has been like, Defenders is what these dudes do on Sundays. But the whole kind of the nature of the thing that they discover, the Null, the Breaker of Worlds, is heading for something. He's heading somewhere specific where there is a specific thing he wants because he believes it's the key to getting him home. Whatever he conceives home being, the serpent, whatever it is. And it's this incredibly weird, incredibly dangerous, incredibly secret thing that our dudes kind of, because they're trying to stop Null, end up discovering on their own. But it's so powerful and weird and important an artifact that it actually kind of has its own conceptual cloaking device. Like it hides itself in your mind, so you can't talk about it unless you've seen it. So, these guys get tangled. My problem was, as I pitched the story to Tom and it became this thing, like suddenly it's like, oh, we're not talking about they fucking fight the Unmen or whatever those dudes were, the lady with the silver head, like it's a huge thing. And Tom liked it. He's like, okay, this is really interesting. Okay, so here's the problem with the story that I just pitched you. Why isn't Captain America the first fucking phone call, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to figure out a reason why, and decided the reason why is that this thing is so insidious a weapon, so insidious a thing, that it cloaks itself in your mind. So unless you've physically seen it, you cannot talk about it. So Captain America could say, "Where the hell were you on Sunday? We were fighting Kang," and Doc would be like, feeling like you lose the word on the tip of your tongue. It'd be like that. So these guys, like they're prisoners of the secret that ends up binding them all together.
Interesting.
They get together as a favor for Hulk, and they're bound together by the end of the third issue by this thing.
This revelation.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, because I was going to say, what is the reason for existence for the Defenders?
Yeah. And at first it's listen, everybody's done wrong by the Hulk. Namor feels a debt. Strange feels guilty.
Sure.
Betty is Betty. The Surfer is like, woo, I'm the Surfer. Let's go see what this is like. Because he's trying to reconnect with everything. And
what about Iron Fist?
Iron Fist is there because he's the guy with the plane. Like, literally, Iron Fist is in the band because he's the guy with the van.
I got no problem with that.
And literally, at some point, Namor says, "Yeah, we need a plane. We can't just get on." We actually see them on the Eurorail and how awkward it is. And they're like, "We need a plane." And Stranger's like, "I know someone with a plane," and so we get to catch up to Dan. Danny's there because Danny has the plane, and ends up being bound to the rest of them. And look, Red She-Hulk is still wet behind the ears. She has no business dealing with things this big, and yet she's forced to deal with it.
Interesting. Well, and I'm glad to see Iron Fist back in your hands, so that'll be fun.
I missed him too, much to my surprise. The second I started to write him again, I immediately wrote like a fucking 5-page scene. Our books are 20 pages now. You don't have pages. I don't have room for 5 pages of banter anymore. But like this thing where I was at a press conference in China, and Danny announced that this new device they were showing off was a time machine. He was going to go kill Hitler, and it's like, let's go kill Hitler, everybody. And nobody laughs, and it becomes a whole thing about how Danny's problems and interacting with the Chinese, and Jiren is there, and I just kept writing and writing. I was like, okay, I've clearly missed you. None of this is going in the book, but I'm just going to keep writing and writing and writing.
Very good.
So it's fun to have him back. He's one of my favorites.
I'm very intrigued by this group, and I am looking forward to this December debut. Now, it's one of those things where not to go back to Fear Itself again, but to go back to Fear Itself again, where we had to give away so much in the promotion. Yes. Just
because it was a new story. It's one thing.
Yes, I do know.
The Skrulls are back. Okay, we get it. The Kang is back. We get it. This is something entirely new. So we basically gave away, and then even then the only surprises we had left got spoiled by external forces. So it's nice to actually be able to have a card kept back that you need to read the book to it's nice to have a reason I've given away a good bit of stuff talking about Defenders and
sure.
stuff in the interest of getting people excited for it, but the actual nature of the thing it remains the secret. Yay, hooray for secrets.
Yeah, no shit. No, honestly, and I remember you guys having to do this at the beginning of Fear Itself and being asked why so much was being revealed. And I remember asking Bendis the same thing when he started Moon Knight. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why are you telling us all this? We'll leave it for the book. And he's like, no, you need that for the solicitation so people want to buy the book.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's really sad.
It is. But look, it's part of the ultimately we need to, what we really need to do is let our retail partners know more than we do, but not everyone can be trusted, right?
Yeah, it's damn you, internet. No, I understand. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a bummer, but it is what it is. So,
no, I appreciate it.
That's the reason why they don't ship the early promo books anymore.
I know.
They get scanned. They get scanned and popped up there.
I do understand. It's why they don't give us digital previews of Marvel books anymore either.
Yep.
So I do understand, and it's disappointing. I mean, and in the pre-internet days, it was very easy to have a separate conduit to retailers and say this is what's going on, and retailers didn't blab.
Yep.
And there wasn't an internet to blab too.
Even then, solicitations aren't intended for. But they had to give the solicitations to internet sources. They had to give solicitations because they were going to end up there anyway. So, all right, well, you have to do this. And now it's like it's part of the news cycle, and it shouldn't be. Because it's really intended to help retailers learn what the product is going to be and what they're going to have to sell and what they're going to need to sell. And instead, we're giving, and then people are prejudging books based on solicitations, you know?
Yes. No, I agree, Matt, and I would prefer to read the story as it happens versus.
You know, how many reviews have you read? I don't even talk about my work. I'm talking about any review. Like, well, this isn't what I expected. Fuck what you expected. Don't review what you expected. I don't give a shit what you expected.
And I'll even cop to that when I said I was expecting at the end of Fear Itself that not today kind of moment.
But that's different. That's different. But that's not, you didn't predicate a review on, I decided in my mind this was going to be story A.
No, I didn't.
But that's what people are saying. Like, that's fine.
Absolutely.
You know, then good. Then what we did, we subverted your expectations. We thwarted your expectations. We didn't give you what you thought you were going to get. Good. You got your money's worth. Hopefully you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
I got to hear, we brought people up on stage. Were you at that panel?
No, I wasn't. I read about it. Go on.
I got to hear people reading the book in real time. I got actual gasps. And I was like, oh my God, this is the way I wish all my books came out like this. I gave it to like 5 super fans and listened to them. Like that was the only time I was ever, it was great. It was nice to hear it like work in real time. But,
explain this to me. Were they kids? Were they adults?
No,
Was it across?
I called up one kid. I guess I called up 2 young men. We'll call them young men.
Okay.
One was 13, and I can't recall the other young man's age. But one of them was savvy enough to have Googled Tanaris and had done some homework and presented me on Tanaris questions, like historical Tanaris questions.
Outstanding.
Like, I was wondering about Tanaris because, as you know, I was like, wow, look at that. And like, come on up, young man. You're getting a special reward.
For those who weren't at that panel, what can you tell us about Tanaris that you don't want to, I don't want to spoil the book, but tell us what you can about Tanaris.
He is the god of thunder. He's got a hammer. He is the son of Odin or Wotan. He is everyone's favorite boisterous Norse god of thunder and lightning.
All right. I guess we'll learn more in
more will be
7.2.
revealed, as they say.
In 7.2 and moving forward to the Mighty Tanaris.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hello. I look forward to the journey. What ho? All right, you're all
Hey, Spartacus, you come to free the slaves?
I don't know who that is.
That's Peter Sellers as Claire Quilty in Lolita. Are you Claire Quilty? No, I'm Spartacus. Have you come to free the slaves?
I've seen that movie. That's good. You're crossing Stanley Kramer movies. That's right. Or Stanley
Kramer.
Not Stanley Kramer. God damn it. Shame on me.
It's later for you than it is for me.
It is Kubrick, of course. Shame on me. You won if you're scoring at home. Take a drink.
Unforced error. So the only way I'm going to win against you, man. Unforced error.
Oh man. Stanley Kramer, of course, who made It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World and Inherit the Wind and other good movies. He's another good director. He's a different Stanley.
All the Stanleys are good directors. You know, there's never been a bad director named Stanley.
Stan Laurel, you're absolutely right about that.
All good directors. Never been a bad Stanley director.
I tend to agree.
Also, did you know the dude's named Travis? Always assholes.
Interesting, Bickle.
In real life. I'm talking in the world. I'm just kidding. Now I'm going to hear from all kinds of awesome Travises.
Exactly, the Travis.
I had 2 different high schools in 2 different towns and 2 different bullies named Travis, so I decided Travises are no good as a rule. But
you got to be a good bully to pull off being a bully with a name like Travis.
I'm not down south, man.
I guess not.
Right in.
Good call. All right, fair enough. Let's talk about Casanova.
Oh yeah.
Happy and trippy. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank God it's out again. I'm so excited. It's so fucking long in coming.
As always, I have no idea where the hell you're going with this story, but I'm enjoying the ride.
Great. Mission accomplished. That was always it was the first time I got offered the chance to actually write a book. Like, I'd written graphic novels and I'd written short stories, but I hadn't actually written the standard unit of comic storytelling in the country. I hadn't actually written a 22-page or whatever comic, so.
Well, wait, these were the 16,
yeah,
you're saying the current incarnation or back in the day when it was 16
Yeah, the
pages?
original when they were 16, like I hadn't.
So, who approached you to do this?
Image. When, they were, Eric Stevenson might have a different recollection, and I'm not sure. My way of understanding was they had success with Fell and were maybe looking to build a line. And it came to me on Warren Ellis's recommendation to pitch something in that format, and Casanova was what I pitched, and they went for it, to their eternal credit. And to my eternal thanks, they went for it. So yeah, it's kind of the funny thing now about like the 20. I'm a firm believer that, and this sounds crazy when I say it, like this doesn't make sense when I say it, but it feels right. Like the truthiness of this is unimpeccable, but factually I'm a little off. But 20 pages is closer to 16 pages than 22 pages is. And this kind of thing now where the standard unit of American superhero comics is becoming 20 pages, like. It ain't a matter of just cutting 2 pages out. Like it's not a skid you can steer into. It is a different format, and 16 pages somehow is closer. I always felt like 22 pages was pornographically excessive anyway. Like I learned how to write on 16 page, So it's been a really interesting couple of months, especially coming out of everything and wrapping stories up and kind of reconfiguring and rejiggering the way I do stuff. But yeah, there's this, you can kind of see guys who are adjusting to it. You can see dudes who aren't. You can see folks who are like, you know what? It's just cutting 2 pages off. It's not.
Do you want to reveal the trick, or is that
I don't think
state secret?
I don't think there's a trick. I just think it's more profound than just losing 2 pages. And first off, if you think it's just losing 2 pages, then you've been writing fat the whole time.
Okay.
Right? If you got 2 pages to lose. This is the thing, people who don't like my Iron Man book are fond of saying that nothing happens. And it vexed me for a while. It really bummed me out, to think about. But then I realized that I was actually cutting things out of every issue. And I had gone long for a year. That whole World's Most Wanted year, there were 22 pages, 23, 24. I did 26 pages once.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, I knew that wasn't the case. I was always cutting stuff out. So I was like, I just don't think you like what happens, or you don't like the way it happens. But that criticism that nothing happens is not actually true, because I have to cut shit out to make what happens fit. So, but yeah, like I've heard dudes like, oh, you just cut 2 pages. Like, then you're writing fat this whole time, man. And that's bullshit. So yeah, no, I don't think there's like a secret necessarily. I just think it's a discipline, It's a different animal. It's a different shape. It's a different format.
Fitting a 4-page scene into 2 pages? I mean, where's the math? Yeah.
I think the era of, 3-panel pages is done. 4-panel pages is done.
Okay.
Unless it's buttressed by 16-panel pages or 10-panel pages. You know what I mean? I think it's look, you talk about Claremont. I'll talk about Claremont all night long if you like. But, the X-Men, the prime Claremont X-Men stuff is 17 pages long. Every issue is 17.
Sure. Oh, sure. No, and I grew up in that era of 17-page stories.
Everybody forgets, right? Everybody forgets that. Like, you kind of forget that it was only 17 pages. The Iron Fist stuff, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, I mean.
Sure.
It's 17 pages. 22 was kind of a late thing. So yeah, it's a different discipline, it adjusts your structure in kind of a profound way, and it doesn't let you, it's sort of a question of attack, it's just a different animal, and it sounds like it's light, but it's 10% of your old book, right?
Yeah,
It's losing 10%.
Sure.
Lose 10% of your body mass right now. Tell me it's no big deal. You know what I mean?
Understood. No, I agree with that. I know, and you're right. And it's fair to point out that, the 17-page lead stories were like that. That's from the 20-cent era. Yeah. Really, as long as comics were under $1, they were pretty much 17-page stories.
Yeah. I don't remember when that leap went. But anyway, it's been something that I've looked at with kind of great fascination lately. People who are kind of intuitively adjusting and recalculating and sort of figuring that out. And others who are just like, oh, I'll just cut 2 pages off. And it's like, oh, interesting. Because losing that 10% exposes the sham that you don't have a story to tell,
How is it with the artists? I mean, talking to the artists about that and everything.
I don't know.
Or does it start with your script and it's like, no, this is,
What I always kind of do, like, especially in like an Iron Man, where just to kind of write to solve his strength, there's little panels and then big panels, and lots of little panels and then some big panels. It's a rhythm.
I understand.
That's always what I have to say. It's just a script like Salva. I'm sorry, you're gonna have this is a 16-panel page, but I promise you, it's only 4 the next one and then 2 the next one. It's all sort of.
Yes.
Oh, Salva's European anyway. Like, he comes from a bande dessinée tradition, like 4-tiered, 4-tiered acrid is kind of his idiom versus a 6-panel, a 3-tiered 6-panel thing. So, it comes and goes, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and it's a learning process. There are guys also who have been drawing 22 pages and now suddenly it's different. It's like, all right, everybody's it's a learning process, and that's one of the things with now with Defenders, like, I'm actually based on arguments that I heard Brian Bendis and Joe Quesada and to a little bit of Jeff Loeb have, and Scotty Young somewhat, about doing Marvel style versus full script. And Joe's argument was, listen, the greatest Marvel comics of all time were written Marvel style. The most iconic visual moments of all time, and comics, say what you will, is a visual medium, were written Marvel style. And back before, the writer was king, quote unquote, which is fucking bullshit if there ever was one. Back then, it was more of a collaboration and artists had the ability to do this stuff, yada yada. And Brian's argument was that's not really writing. They would kind of argue about it and bicker like an old couple, and Joe was like winding Brian up because Joe loves to wind Brian up. But as I was like kind of listening, and it's just fun to listen to these guys, these kind of masters, arguably inarguable masters, argue, as it were. I realized I felt incredibly uncomfortable.
Why?
Because I was thinking about writing Marvel style, and it terrified me. And I was coming out of doing Fear Itself, and doing all of these stories were kind of ending around the same time, and stuff was changing, and Fear Itself was so big, and Fear Itself felt like it had been like 5 years since I had been at the company, and I got to do this huge thing, and by the time it was done, it was so much work. All I saw was my own bullshit, all I saw were, I don't even mean this subjectively, look, fucking don't like the story, it's all bullshit, what do I care? But like tricks, I saw the shortcuts I used, I saw the gags, and like, when you notice your own style, it's getting tired, So like I started to make a list of shit I'm never gonna do again. Like no more news conferences. No more TV screens, no more anchors telling you what's going on.
Interesting.
Little stuff like that, like just story shortcuts,
Yes.
And then I finished Fear Itself right before Chicago. Turned the script in, I think, right before Chicago. I think that's right.
Okay.
But anyway, listen to them talk.
Before C2E2.
Yeah, I believe it was literally right before. It might have been Heroes Con, though.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? It was Heroes Con. Anywho.
Okay, so yeah, late spring, early summer.
I was wrapping up, and I was looking for changes, and I hadn't started Defenders yet, but it was coming, but I made a decision. Anyway, I'm writing Defenders Marvel style. For the first time ever, and it's terrifying.
Interesting.
But the first issue is great. And I told Terry that I wanted to do it like that, and Terry like lit up at the idea. Terry got like excited at the idea of being like a partner, like being more than just an illustrator, but really being a partner in the process. So so I'm writing Defenders Marvel style for the first time.
So your definition of Marvel style, is it page by page?
Yes. Yeah. It's not quite as, from what I understand, Stan's Marvel style was pretty.
Yeah.
They fight beyond or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I would like Doc Ock and Spider-Man. Something bad happens. Figure it out, Jack. Steve Seal.
Aunt May needs her pills, and then Mysterio shows up, and it turns out he was the pharmacist all along. No, it's page by page, but it's, far looser than I've ever written, and very, and there are, it's, look, you're looking at a thing that says page 5 and there's 3 sentences on it. It's clear what 3 panels I know for sure need to be there,
Okay.
But so it's a looser version of the script, but it's more loosely. It's definitely more reliant on an artist than I've ever been before.
Are your scripts online? Are there previous full script versions of your stories online?
Some old ones, but and there were some Marvel ones, but I guess Marvel took them down or something.
Okay.
After I got the okay to put them up, they changed their mind. I don't know. So not really, but I mean, I read a robust script. Like my full scripts are full scripts. Gabriel and Fabio were fond of saying that the first line of my script is for them and the rest is for me. But yeah, but now it's a different animal altogether. It's great. I feel nervous and energized and uncomfortable, and I don't feel bored by my own process, and I don't have the luxury of. And the other thing too is listen, my outline for Defenders 3 was 26 pages long. I was like, well, that's got to happen in 20 pages. So you crunch it, you just crush it the fuck down, and it kind of turns it into like arena rock, Like it's all big moments. It's all like there's no it's just brisk, in the way that comics used to be. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's a huge failure, or maybe the book won't last 6 issues. But if anything else, creatively, it's re-energizing in a lot of ways.
Well, I imagine you still have moments, or maybe not. I don't know. There's got to be moments for conversation.
Oh, sure. I'll put in sometimes it'll say they're gonna have a conversation like this, and there are times when where it'll go back to a full script just because this is like a plot important scene, and this conversation needs to take place. So this is the conversation that's going to happen on this page. And other times it'll be, they talk about this and they do that, and it ends with Strange saying bippity boppity boo, and away they go, or whatever. Sorry?
No, you go ahead, and then I'll ask my question.
It's like I said, it's and volume, the first script is really kind of a weird hybrid. The second script, the third script is much looser. The third script is not quite very Marvel style, but it's probably as Marvel style as I'm going to get, and it's pretty. There's still a sequence where I drew the page, so it's not. I'm not like the most altruistic dude in the world or whatever, but it's
okay. So you gave Dotson a blueprint of this is the way I see the page.
Yeah, but all of it is in the auspices of, or rather under the all of it is meant to be like this is just a suggestion, but this is
sure.
So this makes sense. But I had kind of a stunt, little gag I wanted to do, so it makes sense. This is where I'm coming from, Terry. So you know what I'm talking about. This is how I was seeing it in my head. And then there's a doodle, and you know what I mean? So it's that
sure.
kind of, experience where sometimes it's very loosey-goosey, and other times I've actually drawn it.
Okay. But then when you get the finished art back and you've got a,
Mm-hmm.
dialogue in,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's what's happening, obviously, now in Marvel style and everything. So are you making different choices from what you initially put out there?
Oh, sure. Sure.
Okay. And obviously that's the challenge, and I guess that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, it's all additive, and then the other thing too is I have the advantage of doing these 2 short stories. This story that's appearing in the .1 special, not to pick at a wound, John. And then the epilogue from Fear. So I had like 12 pages of practice before I did the first issue. And kind of got so like I've been kind of warming up to it, and learning a little bit better, and remembering how to write for Terry and stuff like that. So yeah, it's hopefully it'll I don't want to say it'll be nostalgic or feel old, but I don't want it to feel like anything else out there right now. It was very important to me to do something different.
I understand.
So hopefully this works.
It is interesting to hear that after 5 years that you did kind of feel, not that you were in a rut or anything, but like you said, you saw your tricks.
Yeah. I mean, I get impatient. You know what I mean? I blow up careers at the 5-year mark. Like I've like I start to get antsy or something. Like so yeah, I don't know. It was also maybe it's in my nature not to actually ever be able to enjoy anything. Not to put too fine a point on it. But,
Well, I think all of us that do creative things,
yeah.
Come on, honestly, at the end of the day, you're making the donuts, and each time, even though you're doing it different, no, the grind kind of becomes real. And this is what I always told people who said, "Wow, you talk on radio, you do this," and it's like, "How do you do it every day?" And it's like, no, that's the trick.
Yeah.
You can walk in and do a dance and walk away and not have to worry about it for a few months. The bitch of it is really coming in 5 days a week. And shit, now what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's the AV Club, the Onions
yes.
AV Club. They're doing these amazing features right now called walkthroughs, where they talk to showrunners or show creators, and the creator goes episode by episode through a series of television. And Rob Corddry did it this week and talked about Children's Hospital, which is an adult swim show. Fucking amazing show.
Love that show, absolutely.
And he says, like, there was a one point when he was on the Daily Show, and he's like, I gotta do this thing, and I gotta do an interview for the Daily Show, and then I have like 2 improv shows tonight. He was like complaining about just how crazy things were, and he's like, and Colbert actually kind of had to sit him down and say, Rob, you got the job. Like, this is the job. Like you do 2 improv shows a night every night, so you get on the Daily Show. And when you're on the Daily Show, you can stop that stuff. Like, this is like, you got it. You made it, buddy. Like, enjoy this now. Don't keep driving yourself crazy. Like, like that. And that's that sort of thing. Like, I get that. Like, it doesn't matter that, hey, maybe take the summer and enjoy the fact that Fear Itself is so bonkers and is doing as well as it is. And no, you're just going to hate yourself? Okay, good.
No,
But,
well, and assholes like me don't help when I come out.
No, please. This is great. This is I've obsessed about this all summer long. To actually be able to talk about it with somebody is great. And none of it's malicious. This is great.
Of course not. Absolutely. No. And truly, that. I think everyone listening too appreciates the thought process behind these decisions and everything, and in story and presentation. So no, the Defender stuff sounds really intriguing, and
I hope. I mean, it's different than anything I've done. Tom Brevoort began to shorthand it as the Casanova Avengers, which is either genius or has damned us. But yeah, it's different. It's different.
I'm rooting for it.
Yeah, I
think that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's different than anything Marvel's done. It's different than anything I've done. I mean, there's never been a Marvel book like this. And when it kind of gets up and running, when we really get all of our cards out on the table, we've never done a book like this. Marvel doesn't do books like this. So, it's been. I hope people come along on the journey with us.
That's MattFraction from 2011. If you want to read Fear Itself and all the tie-ins and Matt and Terry Dodson's run on New Defenders, you can catch all that on the Marvel Unlimited app. So if you have that, you got them. I absolutely recommend reading them. They're fantastic. Thanks for listening to Word Balloon. Until next time, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2024.